This is an expressive practice sample. You have been asked to render a message for a deaf middle school student. Their class is continuing their unit on plate tectonics. You'll have a 1-minute warm-up, followed by a 1-minute break. After the break, you'll begin interpreting or transliterating. The warm-up will begin momentarily. Okay, so when we started talking about plate tectonics before, we talked about how they happen because of the layers of the Earth. And we kind of started to get into the different kinds of plate boundaries. So, we previously started talking about divergent plate boundaries. This is where there are two plates that are moving away from each other. And we talked about how if our plates were a bunch of pieces of paper on a table, and we were to move two plates or two pieces of paper away from each other, you would be able to see the table underneath. That's one boundary type in plate tectonics. Today, we're going to talk about the other kinds of boundaries, like convergent boundaries and subduction zones. So, tectonic plates either move towards each other, away from each other, or they pass each other. You can kind of think about it like when you have two people walking in the same area. They're either going to walk towards each other and run into each other, or they're going to start standing back to back and walk away from each other, or the two people are just going to walk one right past the other. We talked before about divergent boundaries. That would be like the people walking away from each other. So we're going to skip discussing divergent boundaries for now. Now, those two people who walk towards each other and run into each other, when two tectonic plates do this, that creates a convergent boundary. These boundaries are also sometimes called destructive plate boundaries, because this is where some crazy stuff can happen sometimes. This is where we get mountains, and we can also get volcanoes. We can get all kinds of stuff at convergent boundaries. So if we have two plates and they're coming towards each other, what will typically happen is, like our pieces of paper, they may both start to move up. And if you look at two pieces of paper and the edges start to move up, what does that kind of look like? It looks like a mountain, right? And so these two plates move into each other. Do you guys know Mount Everest? That is the world's tallest mountain. Everest is along the border of the country called India. And India's really interesting because it is on its own tectonic plate. And that plate that India is on is running into Asia, and it is building that whole mountain range where Mount Everest is. And that's why that mountain is so tall. It's because the plate that India is on is running into that plate that Asia is on. What else do these two papers do when they run into each other? What else does that look like? What else looks like a mountain? A volcano, right? So volcanoes can also happen at a convergent boundary. But two plates won't always just go straight up when they run into each other. Sometimes, kind of like with our pieces of paper, one may just go under the other and they just slide, right? So this is called a subduction. When one plate does that, it's what is called a subduction. A subduction is when two plates run into each other and one of them decides to dive down underneath the other plate. Because if they stay running into each other, they go up and they can build a mountain or a volcano. And when one of them decides, I don't feel like pushing, I don't want to go up, I'll just go down, and dives, then the other plate will start moving over it. This happens, subduction happens a lot in the ocean. Our last kind of tectonic plate boundary is called a slip. So, we talked about when they move away from each other at divergent boundaries. We talked about when they move towards each other at convergent boundaries. And that can also include when they make mountains, or that can make a subduction. Another type of tectonic plate boundary is when two plates will just slide right by each other. You know, two plates might just walk right past each other. But this doesn't happen just super smoothly. Sometimes it happens where a lot of movement occurs really, really fast. And this can make earthquakes. A lot of earthquakes occur because of stuff happening at the edges of different tectonic plates. A slip is like when two people are walking past each other and they bump shoulders. That's kind of what a slip is like. It's this really sudden, abrupt movement, and that can cause a lot of earthquakes. There's a lot of really famous plate boundaries that are known for frequently causing earthquakes. So there we have our three kinds of tectonic plate boundaries: divergent, convergent, and slip. Now, does anyone have any questions about divergent, convergent, or slip plate boundaries? Do we all understand this topic?